Well, welcome to Sunday morning in Studio C, the listening room. I'm Michael Snyder-Barker, sometimes known as Bark's Tales.
And I'm Andy Schiller, and welcome to the listening room, Studio C.
This is episode 9.
Is it episode 9 already? I lost track.
I know, and we're here with our good friend Steve Cherne.
Yep.
Steve, thanks
so
for...
close to double digits. You're holding off.
You caught us at the beginning of what we hope is a long and eventful podcast series.
Yeah, it's been fun so far.
Years from now, this will be the episode that gets deleted and never spoken of again.
You know, I don't think this will be the only one.
That's the best part.
But you know, we brought Steve in.
That's good.
To the studio, not only because he's a good friend of ours, and we've hung out quite a bit before, but he is also a master of electronics.
And has some pretty sweet guitars.
That's right.
Yeah.
The first trick you learn is when you're holding a fork, you don't put it in the outlet. Everything else follows from there.
I meant instrumentation-wise.
There we go.
And gadgets and doohickeys.
That's right.
And whatnots.
Yes. What I've made up for in lack of skill on the guitar, I've switched over to using electronics to mask that particular problem.
Well, you're an awesome bass player.
Well, yeah, that's true. Guitars are something that through the years, as you do the bar gigs and you're, staying with the band on weekends and stuff, you just naturally start learning from the other people in the band.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you hit a certain pinnacle of I've got the amp that I like, I've got the bass that I like, well, what else am I going to spend money on?
Right.
So you start getting into guitars and you start getting into pedals and stuff. And so this is more, shall we say, a hobby, something as a time diversion. But I will say practicing on guitar tightens up your approach for bass playing.
Sure.
I would imagine so.
Well, other than the string spacing, but I mean, you have to be more precise in the notes that you're grabbing and why you're grabbing them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
I think I first met you going on, 8 years ago maybe?
8 or 9, yeah.
8 or 9 years ago, yeah. And I don't remember exactly how we met. I know you were associated with Matt Callis.
Oh, over at the church, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe we connected.
Did you fill in on one of the Sundays, and that was the first thing?
Several. I filled in for about a month.
Yeah. Okay. That would do it. And again, the Riverbend Church, which is Tecumseh's local Quaker church. Not traditional Quaker, but we're not going to start that right now.
This isn't about religion.
No.
Right,
no, it's but Quakerism, that's near and dear to my heart. But they do have a band in the service, and I think I ran into Matt at the local supermarket, and he said, "Hey, we're short a person. Do you want to come fill in?" And I was like, it was something I hadn't done, but I mean, we've all done the blues jams. We've all done open mic nights and stuff. So I said, well, this is just one more thing, just a challenge. Let me take what skills I have and see if I can apply them to the situation. Yeah. And what I didn't know is you show up basically an hour before service and you have to learn 7 songs. And it's like, okay, that's an eye opener.
Sure.
And you have to kind of edit on the fly. You want to present the material the best way possible. So you have to make decisions rather quickly,
And it's more about the tone in the sound rather than showing off. You want to blend, you want to you want to sound along with the other musicians and fit in.
Right.
And, be respectful. Right. You want to have the right kind of sound. You don't want to step up to the edge of the stage and be like, watch this, everybody.
Right.
It's not that kind of situation.
You could almost say open mic night should be in that situation too, where you're up there with a number of people you don't know. You might know the material, but you're doing your best to play for the song.
Right.
You're not there to sit there and say, hey, everybody, look at me. I can do weedly, weedly, weedly.
Look at the song, yeah,
how
not
do you
my
do
fingers.
That? Wheedly, okay.
That's a guitar term.
Okay,
That's right.
All right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you try that on bass, it goes wuddly, I don't know. It's.
And drums would be tappity, tappity, tappity.
That's correct.
Okay,
That's
that
right.
I got.
That's right. Yeah, if you're doing things for the glorification of your ego, as opposed to playing for the song and playing for the sense of community with the other musicians that you're there with, you're already wrong.
Yep.
You know, you want to get in there and just say, how can we play the song the best way possible?
And I
Right.
think that's the approach to most really good bands.
That
You
would
play
think.
to the song. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's. But then again, we've seen other bands where the sense of ego gets inflated, and then it's
Yeah.
like, and then the songs ultimately suffer because they're just not that good anymore.
Right.
So, well, there we go.
Right. So what are you doing lately?
Nothing.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. This has been
Thanks.
episode 9.
That's just the shortest one on record. Apparently, I've been cleaning cat hair balls off of some of my pedals
okay.
because apparently they have a sense of what sounds good and what doesn't sound good anymore either. Right. That's right. A lot of it's still what I like to call sonic experimentation. If you plug guitar into pedal and it gets loud, what happens, and is it really what you're looking for up here, or is it just something that's happening and it's not really a musical event? So that's, I think the intent is what you in your mind, you're like, oh, I've got this sound that I'm looking for. Am I getting it, or am I coming up with something else and stuff like that? And that's a lot of fun.
It really is.
Especially in winter months when you're not outside. So, I'm just going to spend the entire weekend down in my basement.
I've seen your basement.
Yes.
You have a wall of keyboards.
Yes.
You have a wall of stuff that's in boxes and amps and things. Then you have equipment laid out. Then you have an acoustic drum set and an electric drum set.
Yes.
Did I miss anything?
No, I can't play any of them. It's amazing.
Sounds great to me.
Yes, I look at it and say, I don't know. I mean, there's so many worse things you could spend money on.
Well, yeah.
Meth, etc. like that.
Right. I think this is one of the greatest addictions,
It
when,
is.
when you
It
have
is.
gas really bad.
It is. Well, and the other thing is, and I'm sure Andy can speak to this, is you can learn to play guitar. You will never finish learning
Yeah.
to play guitar.
There's always something else,
Yeah.
Like I went down the world of, I'm going to learn classical guitar, and I learned from all these greats and went to universities and stuff, and then I see flamenco guys. I still watch Eddie Van Halen and go, man, I wish I could play Eruption. There's just all these different styles. South American, Brazilian guitar. You just watch those guys play and you're like, that is amazing. I wish I could do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And in theory, part of you can, but they're doing additional things maybe outside your wheelhouse, and that would be the learning curve right there. It's like, because again, it's still a 6-string guitar in most parts. It's just they're doing a little something extra.
The notes are the same,
Yeah.
but the strumming and rhythm pattern and such is different.
Yeah.
I wanted to learn to play guitar so I could do one of two things: get through COVID, but also learn how to play the songs I've already written, and learn how to write by myself, because I always depended on others to add music to my lyrics.
Ah, okay.
So now I can just make up my own stuff.
There we go.
Yeah.
So, and again, and it's not like you're done learning.
No.
I mean, I've seen you play chords on the guitar, and I was like going, I have no idea what that is. And it's just, and part of me goes, I probably should figure out what it is, and part of me goes, it's using too many fingers.
Well, in the first 3 years, I thought, okay, I'm going to learn some jazz chords.
Oh.
And so I did. Yeah, and they're not, the ones that I'm playing are not hard.
Right.
The ones Andy plays,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Major 7 is just so useful. You know?
That's right.
Major 7 is lovely.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so do some playing for us today and show us some of these beautiful guitars that you brought in.
Yeah, let's have a talk about through community, I guess. You meet other people, you see what sort of equipment they play. You start hearing about other companies that are out there and stuff like that. A good number of years ago, I heard about a company over in Detroit. Well, we like to say Detroit, it's East Point, but we say Detroit, called Reverend Guitars. That was founded by Joe Naylor. Joe originally was building some really quality tube amplifiers and decided, I went to a Lutheran school, let's start building some guitars. And I was just fascinated by, the idea that, here in the 2000s, the 1990s, that somebody'd say, I've got an idea for design that no one's done.
Yeah, right, right.
And the examples I brought today, these are not them. Joe came up with a take on the semi-hollow Dan Electros, in which he used a molded plastic sides and then a center block, and then he would glue a top and a back to them and then bolt the neck to them. Oh, and they're great guitars. They're outstanding guitars.
Yeah.
And then at some point, as he kind of gathered steam and stuff like that, he took on some other employees. He took on a gentleman by the name of Ken Haas, who ultimately now runs the company, and Joe is the chief designer. And Ken came up with the idea, maybe we should do more contemporary designs, and because we're going to use solid wood, we'll have them actually built overseas, but we'll still design them in the U.S. We'll still do all the setups, make sure that the guitars that we're receiving in are of the quality we expect before we pass them on to the consumers and the guitar places and stuff like that.
Cool.
So the one that I got a hold of, and of course, they're such great designs, and I looked at Joe and I said, it's perfect, but it's not perfect. So the big theme today that we'll get into is just versatility. Sometimes you want one thing that does many things. A Swiss Army knife.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Things like that.
Work.
So this wasn't the first guitar that I got from Joe. This was down the road and stuff like that. You can kind of see this is one of the early model roundhouses.
And it has that cool, like a Bigsby style tremolo, bridge apparatus.
Yep. Well, and you can tell, it's got the classic, 1960s, 1970s Kalamazoo. I'm going to dance around saying the name. But yeah, it's definitely got, that sort of layout. The guitar originally had the trapeze tailpiece. And as it turns out, you can buy a plate that you bolt down and then you bolt the Bigsby onto it. And I kind of said, this is such a classic design, rather than put some, fancy futuristic tremolo on it, let's put something classic. It kind of fits the overall vibe and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I did that wasn't available from Gibson at the time, most of their guitars have two humbuckers. And you would look at this and say, well, that's got two humbuckers. And I would say, good. It doesn't, but that's what you expect. We, Joe and I sat down and we found a P90. I guess they even call these maybe P100s now.
Okay.
So this now has what I figure is more blues approved, humbucker in the bridge, P90 in the neck.
Okay.
So you've got different tones right off the bat.
You got your rock tone, your blues tone. You can blend them together with your pickup switch. Okay, cool.
So you've got that going on. And of course, the other thing that reverends are known for, these models, is you've got volume and tone. The third knob is a bass contour knob.
Oh, wow, that's different.
So what you do is, if, say, the P90 or the humbucker is too thick, you can actually roll off some of the low end
Oh.
and get more of a single coil response.
It's like the opposite of a tone knob.
Right.
Decent.
So he's using his knowledge from the Reverend amp line, the knowledge of electronics to use inside the guitar.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and a lot of his other models might have like two P90s or humbuckers and stuff, but the versatility of rolling off the low end
Yeah.
means now you have other tones available to you. And it's just great engineering.
Talk about versatility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's cool.
So this one basically, again, you can cover a lot of ground from, like you said, your rock tones, your blues tones, your, college radio tones and stuff like that. It's all kind of built in right there. And best of all, it still looks traditional. So you get that big smile on your face saying, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, the look is just right. I mean, I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the first one, and it's still kind of holding a tune. That darn cold weather.
Yeah, the cold weather has
In
been
Michigan,
a
stuff
bear
like
for
that.
tuning.
Yeah.
That's right.
Definitely. It's a nice guitar.
Yeah. So that one served me pretty well. And then of course, because like potato chips, you can never have just one
Just
guitar.
one.
Right.
The second model that I went for was what the model is called a Warhawk, I believe. This one's a little bit more aggressive in the styling, given the fact that, reverse headstock.
Hey, that's
Yeah.
cool. With Hendrix throwback.
There you go. And locking tuners on this
Oh
one.
yeah, it has those locking tuners on the back.
Yep, so that's a nice touch. The other thing that's interesting, you probably can't see it on the camera, it has a raised center area,
Oh yeah, I see it now.
kind of like the old Firebirds. And that was kind of no accident. They did, again, styling wise, same thing. I had to go back and put a Bigsby on it again to make up for my other lack of skills and stuff like that, because you can always just grab and bend a note, sort of stuff like that. I kept both the humbuckers. They're definitely voiced a little bit differently. You still have the bass contour knob, so you can do things with that. And I looked at Joe and I said, again, you've done a great job with the double humbucker setup, but with your knob layout, you can't do the classic Les Paul trick of one volume on, one volume off, and flick the toggle knob.
Yeah.
So I said, well, let's do the obvious thing. Let's get a momentary switch, and we'll mount that right on the pick guard.
Oh.
And it's what you would call, I guess, like the stutter switch. So you can grab a knob and then it goes tweet, 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 tweet.
So like Tom Morello.
And there you go. And that's kind of
He
the
didn't
idea.
come up with it, but he made it famous.
That's right. And so that was just another thing where, again, we looked at the guitar and we figured, all right, let's put in an extra function, the extra versatility, put it in a place where no one's going to expect to find it, and it's just right there.
That's very unique. I mean, I've never seen that before, unless it's, a modified, someone with a soldering iron
Right.
decided to do that in their garage. But
Right.
this is, made by reverends, so there it is.
Yep. And again, it's just one of those things where you can find a perfectly good platform, and it might do 95% of what you want it to do, and just that extra 5 or 10%, a little bit of exploring, a little bit of saying, this is what we need, and boom, now suddenly you've got the tool that you're looking for for your songwriting needs or your
Right.
performing needs and stuff like that.
Now, are you playing guitar out or just?
Oh
for
heavens,
fun?
no! That would be an offense against people's ears and stuff like that. And later we're going to plug in and see exactly what I mean by that.
You know, all the best guitar players are modest, so.
That's right. And some really bad ones are modest too,
Yep.
which is wonderful.
No, I've discovered the limits of what I'm happy with and comfortable
Yeah.
with, and I've also discovered the limits of what my cats will put up with,
Yeah.
and thus again, the vomiting on the pedals.
Right.
So
You've been playing instruments from a very young age, right?
my junior year of high school.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's my earlier than that. I was in a high school band playing trombone,
Okay.
which means at one point in my life I knew how to read bass clef.
Ah.
And that's embarrassing because I don't now.
But when did you start becoming such a gearhead?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I started playing bass in high school because it was a social thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
A number of us that weren't maybe the most athletic or the most concerned about our public appearances said, you know what, it would be kind of funny to sit down and at least torture each other, you know, in a garage with loud
Right.
amplifiers and stuff.
Right.
And I found it just enjoyable. I was like, this is great stuff.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have been, I didn't start probably playing weekends until, wow, I don't know, mid 80s, late 80s.
Yeah.
And then of course you run into the brick wall of, I know I'm playing okay, but why don't I sound as good as I should?
Mm-hmm.
And you can do one of two things. You can just keep playing and say, or you can say, I need to get better.
Yeah.
And sometimes getting better means different gear,
Right,
different
right.
approaches. I mean, one of the first bands I played with weekends was a country band. And I was kind of coming from this, you know, punk rock purist sort of background where like, why would I want to play country? And then somebody said, well, you know, Johnny Cash only used 3 chords. So therefore, if A, then B. It's the same music.
Right.
And Johnny Cash in the 50s, it's almost the same attitude.
Right.
It's like punk, but acoustic.
Exactly. So then, and again, I was like, all right, I'm not completely sold, but I'll go buy a hat and boots and let's go give this a go. And I ended up learning to play country songs, which, again, was just like playing Ramones or The Clash, so what's the big difference there?
Right.
Did that for a number of years. Of course, bands were never stable, so we were always rotating new people in and out of the band. And our band was, it was okay. We weren't the best, but every now and then we'd get somebody in the band that made us better.
Yeah.
And that was a person that I would listen to. And, you know, when a guitar player says, hey, you need to stop doing that and start doing this, I assumed that there's a good reason why he's telling me this. You know, and I was like, all right, so show me. You know,
Yeah.
go back and listen to the songs and listen specifically what the instruments are doing and why it sounds the way that it does. So that made me a better country player, which in theory made me, I guess, a better player because I started to listen to the right things and I started to listen to other people's opinions.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, in country, it's more about the song than anything else. You got to have the song, and I appreciate that. And, you know, just to make a comment about what you just said about you're in a band, you're younger, you know you got to get better, but you don't know how. If you're in a small town, it's really hard because there's nobody to turn to. And, of course, we didn't have the internet or YouTube or whatever. But I was raised in the middle of a cornfield, right? And so when it came to, I wish my band in high school sounded better, but I don't know what to do. There wasn't like a guitar teacher in town or a guy that knew what he was doing that could give us advice. And so the only option would be you got to go to a bigger town.
Right.
Right. And so I was kind of stuck just being the way it was in high school. Like you couldn't get much better. just by reading Guitar Magazine and practicing at home.
But fortunately, you know, the three of us live here in Tecumseh, and fortunately we're 40 minutes, half hour from Toledo, we're 40 minutes from Ann Arbor, maybe 40 minutes from Jackson.
Yeah.
You know, so we have some options, maybe an hour from Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have plenty of options to get around and work with folks.
Well, and the other thing too is honestly the access to the internet.
Yeah.
Kids today at a younger age, if they're inspired to learn guitar or keyboards or drums, can find any number of lessons from people that have a solid grasp on theory
Right.
and things like that. So you could say it's a little bit easier to learn, but you still have to put in the time.
You know, I learned to play drums with MTV.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, back when they used to play music videos.
Yeah, well, I mean, back when they started.
That's right.
You know, I started watching it the year after it started.
So, well, that will do it right there. I mean, you learn. I guess this is a case. I kind of hate to say this. It's a case of monkey see, monkey do.
Well, yeah.
If you know how people set up their drums, sit behind the drums, their posture, how they approach it, you can mimic that, and then hopefully you're learning the correct way.
Right.
Yeah. There was a time when you could sit with the remote and go one frame at a time.
Yeah.
And watch their hands.
Right. And see what they were doing and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that helped.
That's right.
You know,
So.
You know that, and we. What else did we have back then?
Record players.
Record players.
And you could put a 45 on 33 or
play it back more slow.
Play it back slower and just try to figure. What you were trying to find out is what's the intervals between the notes. And once you can hear them, then you can find them and then play them at that speed.
Yeah.
And then start to work, you know, hopefully with a metronome and bringing up the speed to where you want to be.
Right.
And I'm not saying that it's all about speed, but I am saying
it's about matching a tempo.
There we go. And it's all about matching your skills at a starting point to the skills where you want to be when you're done.
Yeah.
You got it.
You know, and that's where, again, that's where practice comes in. When you first pick up a guitar, I mean, most of the time you're not thrilled with the songs that they want you to learn.
Right.
But there's a reason why you're learning those songs and at the speed that you're learning it. Because from there, you're training your ear to hear the differences in notes, and you're training your fingers to go where you want them to go.
Yeah.
And you're training your sense of time, is it? That, you know, a quarter note lasts this long, 4 of them last this long.
Yeah, playing along with the songs really develops your sense of time.
Yeah, it does.
And you know, I think the worst thing that you can do if you're a beginner and you're like, I just bought a guitar yesterday and I'm gonna learn to play the guitar. The worst thing you can do is start with a very difficult song.
It would be very discouraging.
You know, I'm going to learn "Stairway to Heaven" as my first song.
That was
okay,
what I was
don't do
thinking
that. Because you get frustrated. It's a very long journey before you can even play the first chord.
Right.
And so, you know, start easier.
Right.
Actually, on top of that, I would almost say, find a friend that maybe wants to learn to play guitar too.
Right.
So it's not so much a solo journey, it's, you know, maybe one of you learns a little bit faster than the other, and then you can take the time to exchange information and keep each other honest. Oh yeah, I've been practicing, 10 days a week and stuff like that. Well, no, you haven't, because I'm hearing how you're playing right now.
Yeah, and for me as a drummer, it'd be like trying to play Phil Collins of the 70s, but barely being able to keep up with Phil Collins of the 80s and 90s. He was playing a lot of pop music. When he wasn't singing, he was a monster drummer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's because they basically shifted from 70s
to pop.
Pop and stuff like that. Which is just unusual, knowing the skill sets of all the people in Genesis.
Yeah.
And what they had struggled for so long to do.
Yeah.
And then, well, we're still going to take your skill set, but we're going to start writing, I don't know, melodies that people can grasp. Is that a
Yeah.
good way to say
People can
it?
sing along.
I mean, some of their songs were still,
They're still good.
they're still good.
Yeah.
But I think the average person on the street could sit there and say, "Oh, I can whistle that song."
Yeah.
You know, I'm not getting lost in all the different movements
It's not,
and
it's not
you
The
know,
Lamb Lies Down in Broadway.
yeah,
On Broadway.
what is? You know,
I know.
Perfect.
A lot of most of the pedals that we brought today are again exploring the whole concept of let's be versatile
Yeah.
about what you're doing. Everybody has that one or two pedals that it's their diehard favorite.
Right.
Can't leave the house without them and stuff like that.
For me, it was the orange Boss distortion pedal, you know.
SD1?
Yeah, that
Yes.
one. I mean,
That's a
if
classic.
it was good enough for Smells Like Teen Spirit, then it's all you need.
Well, the other concept again, because we're going to stay with the theme of versatility, is what if you had a pedal that did more than one thing?
There we go.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they're out there and they're magnificent. So the first one that we've got today, so I'll point right here. I'm actually going to pick this one up. This is the John Lowe approved
Oh,
Summer School Electronics Science Fair. And there's genius behind this for a boutique company. I want to say upstate New York, Syracuse. They've only been making pedals for maybe since 2021.
okay.
It's small, it's compact, it's made of metal.
And it has green knobs and silver knobs and
And
black,
black knobs and a rat. The colored knobs are very important in this situation. What this gentleman came up with is he took two different types of distortion pedals, came up with his own version of the circuits, and then combined them in the same box.
Oh,
So the green knobs, which he likes to call the test tube side, is basically his take on an Ibanez tube screamer.
Okay.
okay.
The black knobs, which he calls the lab rat, is his take on the classic rat pedal.
Right.
So you've got mild overdrive, you've got a little bit heavier overdrive. They both share a volume knob. So it's the three knob layouts of both classic designs, but the middle one is a blend knob. So you can either go 100% tube screamer, 100% rat, or you can blend the two together to get maybe a flavor that's a little bit closer to what you're thinking of. And like it's brilliant, you know. So I mean, if you were doing a gig, you've got all the different sounds covered, and again, you're not carrying around a lot of things.
Right,
Yeah.
that's nice.
So there we go. So let's plug it in and let's see what happens.
Let's see
Let's
how
see.
let's see how it sounds.
Let me know when you want me to turn on the amp.
Let me see. This is from.
The amp.
And someday I'll be telling my grandkids, "Hey kids, we used to have to plug in the cords," and they'll be like, "Grandpa, what's a cord?" Because everything will be wireless.
Right. Right.
Yeah, Bluetooth approved.
Yeah.
All right. Let me see.
What do you
We've
want
got
the gain
juice.
on this?
Let's start out pretty clean,
Okay.
just because it's nice to see what your basic tone is that you're starting with. And I am starting with Losing My Mind. There we go.
That's
All right.
pretty.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty. Yep, 2 chords, kids. All right, so which one is? We will roll this all the way over to. Oh, that's good. That's still coming in. All right. This would be the tube screamer side of it right here, right off the bat. So
Yep, maybe a little bit more volume over there, Michael. There you go.
tube screamers are normally used for pushing your amp a little bit harder to get a little bit more breakup and stuff like that. But honestly, I mean, that's just a nice little Tom Petty approved classic rock sound right there,
Sure.
right off the bat. You know.
Sounds like a tube screamer.
So that's perfectly workable right there. That's
Yeah.
on the bridge pickup right there. So maybe a little bit treblier than. So there's a little bit more low end when you go switch to the neck, I suppose. And that's the difference with the rolling off the low end.
I hear it.
So, love that actually. All right, so from there, you've got one sound already dialed in. You can switch completely over to the other side, and this is going to give you the rat sound, which is the classic right there.
It's a lot different. All right.
And that's why that button is so important.
It's a more of a saturated sound.
Right, a lot more gain, a lot more saturation.
Yeah.
A little bit, a little bit heavier classic rock sound and stuff
Sure,
like
sure.
that. I mean, Rats have been around since the 70s. I mean, that's always been a go-to in most people's arsenals and stuff like that. So you've already got that option. And then, of course, with the blend knob now, you can take that and find this middle ground and find, like a variety of tones right there.
Now,
Love that
Steve,
thing.
I noticed you're only really touching the bottom silver knob, blend knob. What does the top one do?
Oh, the top one's volume.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
in keeping an eye out for our ears, I said, we're not going to really push it, but I mean, you can actually add a lot more volume to your
Yeah,
signal going into the
okay.
amp, and possibly push your amp that much harder
Now,
with the signal.
all the top knobs are volume?
No. The other ones are going to be like your tone or your gain knobs.
Okay.
So you've got the option of, I don't know if you wanted to, you could roll back the tone on one and roll up the tone on the other. And get that with that blend,
Yeah,
get
nice.
that option if you're going for a certain sound that you're looking for.
Sure, okay.
And stuff like that.
And that's
Sounds
rock and
great.
roll.
Yeah, and that's rock and roll. I mean, so everything in one pedal.
Very nice.
Boom. So I mean, that one, I've been waiting to get my hands on one of these for about 2 years.
Oh. Are they quite expensive?
They are not. You can find them, I want to say the list price on the website's $164. So 2 pedals and one, actually 3 pedals if you want to say, with the blend knob and stuff like that. I think it's more than reasonable. I wouldn't expect it to be your first pedal in your collection.
Sure.
Because again, much like your first car or your first bicycle, you need to drive for a little bit to realize what you want in a car.
So you need to drive before you get the overdrive.
Oh, jeez. That's the one. But yeah,
I can't help it.
there you go. You have to look at your preferences, and if you're a blank slate, you have to figure out what your preferences are. You buy a couple of used pedals. Hey, that one works for me. That one doesn't. Like you said, the classic orange. It just had that sound you're looking for. And then from there, you get comfortable with that, and you're like, maybe I need some other sounds.
But like you were saying, the classic orange pedal, it has that one sound. But this one has
3.
3.
your 2 different sounds that you can blend together, and so I see all sort of different possibilities, different shades of gray between the, black and green. Does that make gray? I don't know my color theory, but the blending of the 2 is really kind of a cool feature.
I think the black and silver could make closer to gray.
I think so.
Yeah.
I love the fact that, again, design-wise and the color coding, you know when you're looking at it, you know what you've got.
Yeah.
I've actually seen the inside of this pedal. It's immaculate. It's, I mean, you can kind of see with boutique pedals, when you've got more time to build things the way that you personally want to build them, you're going to come up with the desired effects and stuff like
Nice.
that. So that's very nice. So that's just a good pedal.
Yeah.
The next one is going to be questionable.
I'm going to turn the volume down.
All right, let's see what's next.
Go ahead.
All right.
Everything's questionable.
Oh, this one more so than others.
But is it answerable?
Yes. This one is one that, again, I've been waiting a couple of years for. Big fan of the idea of this one. I'll put you over here. This is the Northern Mauler. Right off the bat, it's probably telling you that this is not going to be a subtle effects pedal. This pedal was designed in conjunction between Rev Amps, a company in Canada that builds some immaculate high gain amplifiers.
So the Rev Amps has nothing to do with Reverend guitars?
No, that's what.
Okay.
That's just just luck of the draw.
I guess.
I would say.
I guess.
Rev with 2 V's. There's a gentleman over in Toronto by the name of Glenn Fricker, who does some great YouTube posts. He's a producer. He has a particular taste and approach to high gain sounds in recordings, and explaining how you at home can get them without falling prey to the various myths. Oh, you gotta buy, a certain Soldano or a Marshall or a PV5150 or blah, 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 blah. He actually scientifically approaches his ideas and shows you, exactly what he's talking about,
Very
stuff
nice.
like that.
So this is 100% analog. This is not a digital model
Nope.
or a virtual pedal.
At all. What Glenn did is he said, he approached the guys at Rev and said, hey, I really like your G3, your G4 models, which I want to say are the red and the purples. Now, visit the website, kids. So they came up with basically a preamp section of the Rev distortion sound. And then what pushes this over the top is Glenn is a big fan of, I guess, what we would have to call the Swedish chainsaw sound. And I had to do some diving on this one. But basically in the 1990s, a lot of death metal bands in Sweden were coming up with this approach for songwriting and tone that was just ferocious. It was just over the top. You want aggression, you've got it. I want to say bands like At the Gates or Entombed. There's a bunch more and stuff like that. And their big trick was they found a Boss pedal called the HM2, the heavy metal pedal.
Yeah.
Not widely received by most people because, again, it was like a one-trick pony.
It has a buzzy 3K peak.
Yeah. Yeah, and basically what these guys would do is they would take the pedal, turn all the knobs up to 11, and just have at it. Thus the sound. And again, Boss didn't make a lot of the pedals, so now the HM2s are actually highly sought. But again, it's Glenn, it's the guys at Revs. They came up with maybe a politer version of the HM2 circuitry, and that's on the other half of this pedal. And what they did is they put in a blend knob.
Oh, there we go.
So you can go one or the other or both, and it just gets filthy after a while. It's outstanding.
You know what? Then in 2 pedals, you have 6 pedals.
Yes, so far. Oh, the math on this today is just going to get out of control.
That would be fun. I've seen some pedals that even have a continuous controller pedal output where you get one of those rockers that you plug in and you can. I had one that was like an Echo where you could control the modulation and you could control the feedback and stuff through like a separate, like a rocker, you know. So that would be kind of fun to add for
To
like
this.
the blend.
We will have to contact him and suggest that.
I'm sure it would be an easy. The only thing you have to change in the circuit is where the blend knob is. Just run your leads to a jack, and then you get yourself an analog rocker, and you're 100% this way, 100% this way, or 50-50, and there you go.
Interesting.
All right, so this one's going to be a little bit more abrasive than the first one, on purpose.
Let's hear it.
All right, and I'm actually going to turn down the gain. It does have 3-band EQ with the gain. Then it's also just got like the amount of saturation and then the amount of EQ on the HM2 side and stuff like that. But again, thousands of hours of fun just by yourself on this one.
And we're running this through a Fender Mustang LT25, and the sound is great. It's just coming through as a, the Fender clean sound.
It's just a clean amp.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, and the other thing about this, you might be able to see it in the video when you get going, is when you start playing the eyes, the 2 LEDs like the light up and stuff like that. An extra bonus. All right, so we're gonna start. Nice clean sound. This is just gonna be the rev side of the pedal. Basic Marshall sound right there, without a lot of the saturation and stuff.
That's a whole
like that.
song.
Yeah, I mean you could start there and be done. Why would you? But you could. So from there, definitely. I would like to point out that the gain knob on this one is called the giver. Like we're gonna give her. So thank you, our friends in Canada. Get a little bit more buzz going on right there. That's good. So I mean, perfect. If you've got a small amplifier, you can turn it into a fire-breathing monster, no problem.
There you go.
Got a nice buzz going on. That's how you know you're doing something right. Now, on the other hand, you can take the blend knob and go over just to the HM2 side of it.
Oh, that's a lot different.
A little bit more saturation, a little grittier, shall we say.
A bit brighter.
Best news for everybody is I can't play death metal to save my life. So you're not going to be getting any of that.
I think I just saw the eyes light up.
So 50-50. Got just a nice compressed saturated sound that would sit in the mix pretty well. There you go. Your basic high gain amplifier in a box. And best of all, you didn't spend thousands and thousands of dollars to do that.
And so this is a boutique pedal, so what are we talking budget-wise?
Budget-wise, I don't know, $250. You can probably find them used for $175, sort of things like that. The Rev company makes a series of pedals focusing on their own preamps as well. So I mean, you could easily just pick up like a smaller Rev Purple and get half the fun you know, and stuff like that. But it was the idea of combining the two together into one pedal that I thought was the absolute genius of this
Yeah.
one. and
Well, it
stuff like
sounds
that.
great. Being an old man, I had to take my hearing aid out just because, you know, I'm getting the additional amplification
Oh yeah,
from
yeah,
my ear.
yeah,
and I'm
you're,
sitting right here.
yeah, you're sitting in the cockpit right over
I
there
am.
and stuff like
I
that.
am.
But again, it's nice because you can be at home, you can even be in a club situation.
You can annoy old men.
Yes. And you can get the sound that you're looking for at a lower overall volume,
Yeah,
which is, I think, the important thing right there.
definitely. Great sound and great mix.
I wonder what would happen on both of the pedals that you've shown so far. I noticed there's only the one button on and off. I wonder if the wizards of electronics could put an on-off button for each side.
You could. I think the idea that they had is you're going to be sculpting a certain sound
With the blend knob.
with the blend knob, and so that way you're actually using the blend knob to really dial it in.
Sure.
You've got like the basic, and then you're going to blend in a little bit more of this or that just to get that one particular tone that you're going for and stuff like that. So that's the part that I actually kind of find exciting, because I think I've seen multiple distortion units where like you can toggle things on and off and you're stacking gains one on top of each other. This way they're more interacting with each other and stuff like that. But that would be kind of fun to find out.
Sure.
You know, pedals are a fun exploration. Like there was a time when I had a stereo volume pedal, and what I did is I just plugged my guitar into it, and it had two outputs, right? And so I would, like, you know, run into one and run into the other, and I would kind of blend from one to the other, and of course your amp has to have two inputs.
Well, or 2 amps.
Or two amps.
Right.
But then, you
Yeah.
know, I started to run into things like ground loops, and so then I did a deep dive into figuring out why is it buzzing so much. But anyway, that's a topic for a different episode.
Probably. But there we go. So that's so we're 2 for 2. We went kind of mid gain, a little bit thicker gain. Now we've just kind of hit the pinnacle of the mountain
The real giver.
with this one.
The giver.
I love that. I love that. That's, I don't know. And did the eyes actually light up on that one?
It did.
That's outstanding. There they go. So at the very least, you can always be amusing yourself on stage. You know,
With
on
the
top of
lights.
everything else.
Right.
All right, 2 for 2.
So now we're onward to number 3, and I see that it's a Marshall pedal.
This one's fascinating because I've had it for a number of years without really realizing what I had. And then you do the research and you're like, oh, again, thank you, Internet, for the things that we learned. This was a series of Marshall pedals from the early 2000s, maybe mid 2000s. Nice metal boxes. They did a couple of overdrive boxes, a couple other effects. What was odd about this one, which they like to call the Regenerator, was they built 6 different effects into one pedal. Well, they're kind of cheating on that, but
So
we're not.
12 total between the three.
It's just the math, it's adding up. They've got a vintage style chorus, a modern style chorus, a flanger, a phaser, what they call a step phaser. Oh, step phaser, help
Step
me.
phaser.
Oh, what are you up to there, step phaser? Nonsense. And then vibra tone. So you got like vibe and stuff like that.
So all modulation effects.
There we go. So again, instead of having multiple pedals, you just reach down and you just flip through the 6 positions. And they still gave you, you know, like for modulation, for time, depth, and even a little regeneration, how much of the signal folds back on itself and stuff like that. So you can definitely make everything a little bit more swirly.
Now, why does it have the 2 outputs on the side?
Well, that's fascinating. So this actually answers all of your concerns in one shot. On the first side, there's the input jack for your guitar. There's also an input jack for your expression pedal.
Aha, that's the thing I was just talking about.
There we go.
Okay.
They thought of it.
They thought of it. And again, so you can do things with different aspects of the effects. On the other side, as Mike pointed out, you've got stereo outputs for running into 2 amps.
So your chorus is gonna
Be huge.
be three-dimensional. You know, it's gonna go left to right. So if you have 2 amps, or you plugged into a PA system left and right, and you pan it hard left and hard right, your
Yeah.
guitar signal is gonna just cover. It's gonna sound like it's coming from both
bounce.
sides.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like it's
So
bouncing.
if you certain effects like chorus and flange, when you split them into stereo amps, it's just the whole sound wave just seems like it gets larger.
Yeah, chorus just based on mono is kind of, well, it's like seeing a picture in black and white. You know, you're not really appreciating what it can fully do.
So you plug in your expression pedal,
Mm-hmm.
and what would the expression pedal be plugged into something else?
No. The expression pedal would be controlling some aspect of the modulation knobs.
Okay.
It's like turning the knobs on the pedal
But with
while
your
you
foot.
play.
Okay. Interesting.
Look, no hands. But yeah, so say you've got the sound that you're looking for. You're all engrossed in the notes and what you're doing on the guitar.
Yeah.
But now your foot can come in and actually
Yeah.
do another
I don't
function
know,
as
that
well.
hand coordination between hands and feet. I guess I could do it as a drummer.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we would assume so. All right. So let's see what's in. Now the thing that's funny about this is, and I love when companies take the time to say, oh, we're going to give you a vintage chorus and then a modern chorus, because again, it's 2025. How modern is this chorus really going to be? Or is it? What if they're absolute
Post Hendrix
geniuses?
is modern, I guess.
That's right. Here's your clean sound again. So this should be the vintage chorus.
Nice and subtle.
Yeah. But we can reach down, kind of throw some more regen back into it. There's a little
It's
bit
there.
of depth right there. Yeah, that's pretty. I mean,
That
that's
is pretty.
useful.
That is pretty.
That's what that would have a good effect in a good number of songs.
Yeah.
Before the distortion and their RRR kicks in and stuff like that. So that's not bad. So that's what they consider their vintage take on chorus. This would be the more modern. I feel like more wave to it and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, so I mean, so there's definitely some variety there.
Yeah.
And again, you can still play around with like the time and the depth knobs, get more out of it and stuff like that.
What do the time and the depth knobs do?
Oh, let's find out.
Yeah.
If you
Because I'm really very inexperienced in pedals.
if you increase the depth, well, we'll do something extreme, so you'll definitely be able to hear it.
Now is that
That's going to be the time aspect of it.
okay? So is that high?
Yes.
Okay.
It's warbling quickly, so.
And so the depth, what's that set on?
The depth is like the longer wave to the sound and stuff like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
So traditionally, I always like to run the time a lot slower,
Yeah.
so it kind of cycles at a different rate and stuff like that.
More melodic wave.
I shouldn't have stretched for that one, but there you go.
Thank you. Yeah, I did not understand these things.
Yeah. So, and again, when it kind of comes down to crafting that sound that's in your mind or what you think is appropriate for the song, I mean, these pedals all have all these extra knobs that do things, and sometimes when you've got the time, you just want to mess with them and just say, why, what, how.
What's useful for the song? Yeah.
And even,
Yeah. Yeah, because you can also find sounds that maybe aren't useful for the sound, but then be useful for other sounds and stuff
Sure,
like that.
sure.
So, but you definitely don't want to do that when you're out performing in front of people,
No.
because they're not there to see you on a workshop of
Right.
what does this knob do.
right.
They'll be saying the same thing.
Unless you're at a Dream Theater concert, then everyone's there just to stare at the.
pedals. All right, the next one I want to say is going to be flange.
I only say that because I've done that before.
Well, it's
Okay, flange. So
It's
flange
healthy.
used to be, flange, kids, is when the tape machine is playing back the songs on a reel-to-reel, and the engineer reaches up and puts their thumb on the reel, and it goes, and then you take your
okay.
thumb off, and so that's flange.
That's great.
It's kind of like chorus, but in a different way.
Yeah. It's kind of, there's a little bit of the detuning to the note.
I call it the airplane landing sound, like. Right now it's kind of subtle.
Yeah, that's like the sound.
But it's there.
That's the sound of the '70s, baby, right
Yeah,
there.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, if you got a little bit more extreme, you can. That starts to get a little bit psychedelic on you right there. So again, I don't know. I guess if you're playing Hawkwind, it would be appropriate.
A little bit goes a long way. Like if you had that high gain, if you had your heavy metal pedal going, then just a little bit of flange would really stick out.
Right. Yeah, make it all swooshy and stuff like that. Yeah. Let's get back to some semblance of sobriety here. All right. And then phaser.
Phaser.
Yeah.
Get that ain't talking about love kind of sound.
Can't do it.
Right, the Police.
Oh, yeah. Most of the Police stuff was actually flanger,
Oh,
Oh,
oddly enough. But yeah, early Van Halen, that's phaser all the way. And as it turns out, it's a great pedal to have for when you're doing solos, because it really kind of thickens the individual notes.
sure.
And that was a great 70s trick right there too with the hard rock bands is you would just get going solo and kind of,
Makes it sound like two players. So phaser is when you have one signal, then you have another signal, but they're just slightly off of the timing, so the phase of the sound waves doesn't line up exactly, and so you hear kind of two sounds, and that's a phaser. And you can accidentally get phasing if you're not careful by, like if I have two mics in front of me, and one mic's a little further away, think about the science of it. As soon as I speak, the sound wave hits this mic, and then a split second later it hits this other mic. And so the sound waves aren't going to be played at exactly the same time in your ears. And so you hear one a little sooner, and you hear one a split second later. And when you hear them in different ears, you turn your head and you're like, it sounds like it's coming from over there, because with our ears we hear, it's a evolutionary thing. When a sound wave hits this ear and then a sound wave hits this ear, a millisecond later your head turns and you're like, that sound came from over there. And so when you have sound waves hitting your ears at different times, it's like that hunter evolutionary aspect of it's a locational thing. It's how you tell where things are around you.
interesting.
So that's a good trick for mixing songs in regards to where things sit in the mix and how you perceive them coming up.
Certainly, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, if I had if I record your guitar and I make the left signal come at you in the normal way, and then I delay the right signal by a millisecond, you'll say, that sound's coming from this side. Even though both sounds have the same volume, you'll perceive it as having a direction.
Oh, I like that.
So phaser.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Stuff like that. The next one, I have no idea what they were thinking of, because they took the same concept of the phaser, but then it's almost like it does a sequencer trick. And
I'd call that bit crusher.
yeah, isn't it?
Hey, you know, if that's
really
set to the tempo of the song, then
That's really interesting.
You got something. Now see, if you had the expression pedal, you could actually, while the drummer's counting it off, you could actually try to find out.
yeah, dial it in. Yeah, the expression pedal just saves you from having to bend over and turn the knob. Like, you can play your guitar and move the knobs with your foot while you're playing, so.
Yeah, it's just an interesting thing that they thought to put that on. You know, I mean, they could have just as easily stopped with 5, but they said, you know, we found this other thing that it can do, just put it in there.
This one goes to 6.
That's right, that's right. It's all on a chip in there anyway, so. But I mean, again, sometimes you find a setting that maybe it doesn't work most of the time, but then there's a one time where it does work, and you've got it.
What's that sound you're looking for? That's what matters.
I almost feel like I could start doing like some of the Who intros. Like what they used to use the synths for on by Bob O'Reilly and stuff like that.
Right.
But we're not going to take the time to find that out now. All right.
Cool.
All right, and then the regular vibrato. It's kind of got that chorusy feel.
Okay. Maybe crank it up a little bit and let's see it in a more obvious. Gives you that kind of like rotary speaker kind of sound.
Oh, so now we're going to like Stevie Ray Vaughan territory there.
That's cool.
That's pretty neat. Yeah, so I mean, there's some fun to be had with
Absolutely.
that. I could see that. They did have a separate standalone vibrato pedal in this series as well, which I happened to come across today when I was looking for this one. I was like, again, it's all the same housings. So
Yeah.
Didn't know which one I was picking up to start with. Yeah. I tend to use modulation effects for softer passages. For things, if you want to like highlight especially vocal passages and you want to have like a nice pleasant background and stuff like that. There's a school of thought that I tend to follow, that if you beat on somebody with a hammer for an hour, they're going to get used to it. Not going to be happy with you, but they're going to get used to it. But if you beat on them with a hammer and then tickle them with a feather for a little bit, and then come back and start beating on them with a hammer, it seems like it feels a lot worse the second time. And you can use that theory in music composition.
Let's not test it in real life.
So, but you think of like your classic Nirvana.
Okay.
Like for instance, they started out hard and heavy, and then on the verses they would pull everything back to bass and drums, a little bit of guitar, kind of get the words out there, get the message out there, and then when the guitar came back in on the chorus, suddenly it was, loud and heavy again.
You got it.
So that was the Pixies trick.
So this sound would be perfect for like a verse sound.
You know,
I wouldn't be adverse to that.
That's right.
Again, I can't help it. I gotta say something.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, it's just nice. It's a nice change of pace. It changes your anticipation of the song.
But it's also very rich.
Yeah.
It's very rich sound and full.
Yeah, that's just it. With less notes.
I was just thinking that.
So when I was at Siena, the professor there was like a Hammond B3 organ guy, and he was great at keyboard. And he used to sit on, like his piano bench, like his seat was a rotating speaker. And so,
Right.
like he would play the organ through the speaker, and like inside this box, there was a speaker and there was a motor. And it spun like this, and the speaker would play the sound, but it would spin. And so that's kind of this sound.
Yeah.
David Roof has one of those, and he played that on, I think, my first record, Bark's Wagon Tales.
And it's loud because it goes like it makes a noise, but hey, you have to turn it up loud to kind of cover that up because there's like there's a noise to it. But it has the coolest sound, and in fact, there was a line of amps. It was called Fender Acoustasonic amps, and I don't know if you've ever seen those before, but they're kind of tall and skinny.
Oh.
And there's a speaker on the front, and then there's speakers on the side. And then there's actually a speaker on the bottom that faces down. And so it's like, it was revolutionary at the time for sounds coming out the front and sounds coming out the side and sounds coming out the bottom. And so it's like all around you or whatever. But it didn't spin or have a tremolo or anything like that.
Right. But just the whole spatial aspect of it.
Right, you could hear it anywhere around it that you stood. Like you didn't have to turn your amp toward yourself to hear yourself more. You could stand on the side of it and hear it just as well.
Right.
That's cool.
I think through the years, a lot of guitar players used to find ways to take those Hammond cabinets and then adapt them so they could run them with their guitar rigs and stuff like that too. So.
But they're heavy.
Oh, yes they are. Well, not as heavy as the B3 themselves.
Right.
Those things were monsters. Ugh. So, but there we go. So in terms of your versatile pedals, I mean, this one's doing 6 different sounds.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you don't have to take a large pedal board out with you to still get the variety of sounds for whatever project that you're using and stuff like that. Part of me would actually kind of argue the more pedals you take out, you know, past a certain limit, you're going to start getting option anxiety, like remembering what they do or remembering where you want to use them.
Right.
Whereas if you use your pedals organically in your sound, you already know, oh, I'm getting ready to do this, I need to step on this because it's going to do, you know, what I need it to do and stuff like that.
Yeah, the more pedals you have, the more points of contact, so the more things that could go wrong.
Is the other problem.
If you have a bad cable or
Bad
whatever.
power supply, Yeah, and then now you're interrupting your performance to try to figure out why all your fancy tricks aren't working. And that's just embarrassing.
That's embarrassing, yeah. Okay, onward to the one. Hey, this one has like almost like a tarnished look.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, industrial look. It has like a
Get the volume back.
copper plate at the top. It has like a brushed. I don't know. It's not glossy. They're going for the opposite.
Oxidized,
look.
I want to say.
It also
Oxidized.
It also has buttons and switches.
Oh yeah. This one, luck of the draw on this one. This is not a pedal that you can find that often. And the reason is kind of stupid. The original designer was a gentleman by the name of Tom Cram, who worked for DoD and Digitech. Designed a good number of pedals. The most favorite is he designed a fuzz pedal that was called the Carcosa. For all you True Detective fans, track that one down. It's amazingly fun production pedal. And at one point, a couple of years ago, basically DoD and Digitech went out of business. So he took his knowledge and started a boutique pedal company, which the brilliance of this is he wanted to call it Rose Pedals. And which, oddly enough, this particular model being an early one, has the original name. This was actually called the Black Rose. Somebody in the music industry wasn't too keen on him using the word rose and kind of said, can you knock that off? And rather than go through litigation, he changed the company name to Spiral.
Axel.
Yeah. That's
To what?
Axel.
Axel?
But the company became Spiral Effects. And basically they took the rose design and kind of made it more spirally. So current models of this would be called the Black Spiral. He builds them in small batches. He has different colored versions that do different things. Like you could get a yellow spiral, you could get a blue spiral. But a lot of this is homemade. I mean, they take the enclosure, they do the artwork, they do the circuit boards inside. I'm afraid to open this one up just because I just love the way that it looks. But this is basically a fuzz pedal that's circuitry is designed after the 70s Maestro fuzz, which when you hearken back to Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones, that was the pedal on that one, and that's kind of the sound that they're going for.
Nice.
In a refined version, stuff like that. Those Maestros are great. The beauty of this one, again, sticking with the whole being versatile and stuff like that, is there's a 3-position switch which gives you the option of using silicone diodes, a nano diode, and then a germanium diode. And they all do little variations on the sound and stuff like that. This one in the wrong hands, like mine, can just make really nasty sounds. It gets squeaky, it gets whatever. We're not going to hopefully do that here, but you never know. But things like the focus or the gain knob, the nature of the design is they're all interactive. So if you change the parameters on one knob, it does affect the other knobs and what the other effects will do and stuff like that. But you can still buy spiral effects right from the website. You can see some of the ones he's got out there and stuff like that. I was just fascinated the history of the company.
Oh, sure.
So when I came across a chance to get a hold of this, I was like, oh yeah, that one's gonna be mine. I'm not even too sure what to do with it at this point.
What if you plug it in?
We'll
Let's
find
hear
out.
it.
I'm not even too sure the last setting that I had this on. You might be in for a rude surprise. Fuzzes, traditionally you can get like, you know, just like a nice overdriven sound, but it can also get like really splatty and warped. And I think the whole idea with the fuzz originally is that you're trying to come up with an effect that would make a guitar kind of sound like a brass instrument.
Okay.
Failed miserably. But, you know, you have to start somewhere and things like that. Alright, we're going to stay with the front pickup. Just because that's a nice warm sound. And
Fuzz.
yeah, it's got that early Sabbath sort of thing going
That's what I
on.
was thinking, yeah.
Sabbath sound.
Sabbath sound.
It's your bacon fry setting.
But yeah, see, there's some of the artifacts that you can get with it. might be more subtle than I thought.
Slightly
Yeah,
different.
I mean, it seems tighter, I guess,
Yeah.
is up. And that should be, I want to say, the silicone setting.
It's almost like a compression that's happening in there
That one's responding more to the low end right
too.
there.
Yeah.
That's the other trick with Sabbath. It's always half steps.
Right.
Brilliant, but and this one should be more the germanium, I want to say.
A little bit more high end there.
Yeah, like a little more clarity, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, that's a very useful sound for that kind of classic rock tone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or like,
very-
I guess, what stoner rock right now, the whole desert sound. That's very appropriate. I want to say, like, actually, I'd have to get a little bit filthier to get like that Fu Manchu kind of sound and stuff like that.
But I hear the Black Sabbath throwback sound a little
Oh,
bit
yeah.
in there.
Oh yeah, that's definitely, yeah, that. You want to say back 60s, 70s, I mean, they were just building amplifiers that worked.
Yeah.
They weren't really fine tuning them and stuff like that. So there's just that kind of more organic
Right.
earthiness to the tone and,
And
stuff
all these
like
are
that.
trying to reproduce them.
Right. Or get worse. Yeah, because I mean, the output on this thing's amazing. You can
Yeah.
kind of push an amp into kind of starting to distort just from the output even before the fuzz signal even hits it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, as far as all the pedals you've shown so far, the look of it is really, I mean, you can tell it's a boutique pedal where someone sat down and made that top plate, and it's sort of a work of art on the top there. The colors.
It is.
Oh yeah. Oh, you should see, again, visit the website. Some of the other ones, Tom kind of does the circuitry work and the designs and stuff, but he turns to his wife, who does a lot of the designing for the pedal tops and stuff like that, and they'll do all sorts of like anodizing and distressing and whatever, and there's just it's just kind of fun where you have a pedal that's not only functional, but it's the actual creation of it is kind of like art.
And it has the big knobs on it, which is kind of nice. You know, the Marshall has the kind of tiny knobs, and they're very close together.
Yeah.
So this one seems easy to operate.
Yeah, it's just all laid out and stuff like that. So yeah, a lot of it, I'm sure he sat down, and a lot of it's probably even personal about the whole layout and the design and
Sure.
stuff like that. He just,
Yeah.
I want it to be a certain size, I want it to have a certain layout, and boom, there you go, and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
All right, it looks like we got one more
All
to
right.
go.
All right, well, the last one's,
The best?
I want to say yes, but this is the one that I knew that potentially the fuzz was going to be kind of ugly sounding, and we didn't make it ugly, but it's there. You do the deep diving and stuff like that. The last one is the pretty pedal.
Oh.
Oh yeah, and I say that for a lot of reasons. This is another boutique builder. This is, you'll appreciate this, Flux Effects.
Okay.
This
Like the
one's,
flux capacitor.
that's the one. This one's called the Liquid Ambiance.
I like the name of it.
Made in New Zealand.
Okay.
Again, originally when I first found this company, he was making small batches, and he would post on his website when they were available for sale. Because, I mean, if you're making like 5, 10, 20, and the demand is greater than that, he didn't take like a waiting list. He just said, I've got a bunch built and go. And the third time I tried, I actually got through and had the privilege of buying one.
You won the lottery.
In this case, yes.
Yeah.
It was such a pretty sound.
Yeah.
That's the best way. I was like, I just need a pedal that does pretty. And it's even hard to explain what it does because it's a reverb pedal. It's got some pitch shifting in it. It's maybe got some delay in it. But rather than give you individual knobs, it's a process. It just does a sound, and then you can
dial in
the sound. But you can't separate the individual aspects of it. It just gives you a sound.
Okay.
So it gives you a little more or a little less in the blend.
Oddly enough, there's a button that even says more.
More, okay.
More.
And the more button is important for this pedal will self-oscillate if you hit the more button. So it'll fold part of the signal back on itself and evolve. Oddly enough, there's also a button that's marked evolve. So it's like, I don't even know what it does half the time. It just does this. The other thing that is fun is you have a guitar input and an output. He built an effects loop in it.
Oh?
So you can add effects to the effect.
You can affect the reverb. Interesting.
It's a hall of mirrors at this point. That's just all it is. So we'll do it straight, if we can say that. And then we'll do something probably with the regenerator and try to see if we can illustrate that a little bit further.
Okay. Let's give it a shot.
That's right, shall we?
And so it has two buttons. One is like an on-off, right? And then what's the other one?
The more button.
The more button.
And the more button stays lit up in certain ranges. Part of the pitch shifting is if you go to the left, it'll give you a tone like a fifth below the note that you're playing. Either fifth below or fifth above. If you go to the right side, it'll give you a tone an octave below or an octave above. And this pedal came out before the whole reverb shimmer craze got started, which was the other reason why I had to have one, because that's the only place you could get that particular sound at the time. You know, now you can get that in numerous pedals if that's a tone that you're going for. All right. And are we up?
Yep.
Nice. We're going to stay with the front pickup.
That is pretty.
It's a nice reverb.
So from there, say we go the octave up, you can kind of start to hear it right there.
Wow, the reverb is like an octave higher. That's crazy. It's cool.
I mean, you can lose so much time with this one.
Yeah.
Just because, musically, I know it's important. I just can't imagine exactly what the other guys in the band would be doing while you're busy spacing out with this particular pedal.
Listen to Pink Floyd.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, this would be one where you could do like tracks and tracks by yourself.
Right. But play that again.
I really like the octave up. That is cool.
Because you get that little high definition,
Yeah.
the shimmer.
But you can can lay a beat to that and do a whole lot of other things.
It's like there's a synth playing along with you.
Yeah.
Now I think we should be able to find the octave down.
Octave down. That is cool. Wow. Okay, I would use that.
Yeah.
It's the word I like to use is pastoral.
Okay. It's like you're in a real concert hall, or you're in, Carnegie Hall, and you hear these reverberations that are not just the instrument, but the sound of the room.
And it's one that makes you be aware of the space between your notes, because if you play too much, you lose the effect. So you have to give space for them to do things.
Right. If you just constantly played notes, it would be gone. Yeah,
See, that's just not exciting at all.
No, it's muddy.
Now the interesting thing about the more function is, now, like right now it's not lit up, so you can't do it here. But let's say we just roll it right to where it lights up. If you're in center, it's going to basically just keep doing what it's doing. If you're to the left or to the right, it will continue to oscillate in a certain direction.
Okay.
I hope this comes across.
Oh, so you hold it down. Ah, like a freeze pedal. Interesting. And has a nice taper, like when you let go, it doesn't just suddenly stop, but
Right.
fades away. That is interesting. Wow, I've never seen a pedal do that before. It's like the reverb is just growing.
Going on and on and on.
And in theory, it should be able to do that downwards as well.
It sinks. Okay.
It's like little ghosts.
See, but I can see that being effective in certain passages, like as a transition and stuff like that too.
Yeah, or at the end of a song or the end of a section. Cool.
That's it is. That's the one where it showed up, and like the first week, I didn't even know what to do with it.
Sure.
But you just kept like banging away at it, and you're just like, wow, it does that. It does that. It does that. And it is with boutique builders. It's interesting when a person says, okay, I know how to build things, and now I'm going to build a product that does this. And then, how many people are going to step up and say, yes, sir, I see what you're going for, or what do you do with it and stuff like that.
Right.
All right, so now it gets weird if you want to catch the volume.
So now you're going to use the effects loop.
Now we're going to use the effects loop, and we're going to keep with the pretty sounds, I think.
So shipping from New Zealand had to be...
That wasn't that bad.
Oh, okay. This is the opposite side of the world.
Yeah, it was the waiting more than anything else.
The waiting is the hardest part.
There you go. All right. If I did, Andy, is this the output?
That is the out.
Excellent. If you're going to use the effects loop, you might as well use it properly.
I do hear that that's important.
Last time I had my eye test at the doctor, they gave me a 40-20 in this eye and 30-20 in this eye. So I won't need glasses for a while.
That's good.
In other words, like if you can read that sign from 20 feet away as an average person, I can read it from 40 feet away. So
Oh, man.
I should have been a fighter pilot, I guess.
Okay. I don't know what's going to happen here. Let's turn that off to start with and see what our basic sound is. Okay.
It's chorusing the reverb. It's tremoloing the reverb. Hey, I wonder, you could distort the reverb, or you can flange the reverb.
Oh, you can. I'm here to tell you, you can. Because you're mixing it again and stuff like that. The distortion really doesn't get ugly with it,
That's
which
nice.
which is kind of interesting. Let's see. Turn down the regen on this.
I'd say that's pretty useful to be able to affect the reverb like that.
No doubt.
And I've used delays with it that just set up just like a whole kind of melodic but yet time-based beat to what was going on, stuff like that. And again, you stop playing as much because just to hear the effect,
Right.
you have to give it space for the effect to develop
right.
and stuff like that.
That sounds great.
Yeah, and I could see, honestly, you could lose yourself.
For days.
For days. I mean, just you set that up. You set up a drum machine, and you kind of put like, there is that whole ambient guitar genre that's going on and stuff like that. And this was like, rather than have to pull out 10 different pedals, it's like you just plug into this and you're done.
Yeah.
And then just.
Now you will close your eyes. Begin taking deep breaths. In for 4. 1, 2.
It's like
3,
early Porcupine Tree songs.
I was going for the meditation.
Yeah. And that was the other interesting thing is bringing these particular guitars, because of the Bigsby, you don't have the whole dive bomb effect. It's a lot more subtle. It's a lot more controlled. So. So you can actually put a bend on top of what the pedal's doing and stuff like that. And then if we were truly insane.
That's very useful. I would use that. Okay, how much was this pedal?
This one I thought was pretty reasonable. It was like maybe $249, $299. And current models, you can get both a mono or a stereo version.
Stereo.
So you could actually plug in like keyboards in stereo, output in stereo.
Oh, man.
He's got a couple other models. He does like a delay unit, and I want to say like a reverb unit and stuff like that. And I think now he's even got chorus built into the current version of the ambience and stuff like that. So
Just added some more bells and whistles to it.
Exactly, but it's just...
It's like the glue pedal, it just glues together the notes of the song. All right, so we're gonna keep on moving on. We're gonna show Michael's pedals and we're gonna show my ukulele, and I'm gonna move the camera back.
Nice.
You know,
Show all of us.
there's no way I could show my pedals to the depth that Steve has. Steve knows more about these things than I do.
Well, you've already got one of my favorite pedals on your board,
Well, yeah. I mean, you suggested that I purchase that one.
and I was not wrong.
Yeah.
All right, Michael, now it's your turn to show us what you brought today. You want to talk about your guitar, your amp, and your pedals?
Oh,
You need this.
yeah, I was plugged into the little one. What am I doing here? That is going that way, this is going...
We'll edit this part out.
Just leave it in. It's the best part.
All right, well, so I bought a different array of pedals. And, you know, the most important one is the tuner.
Yes. Actually, no, I'm going to jump right up and just say yes.
The kill switch on it is essential. You know what I like having on my guitar setup? A button that turns it off because you want to mute your sound.
Yeah.
And hey, if it starts squealing and you have like a feedback emergency,
Yep.
it sure is nice just to go click.
Now, I just bought this guitar Tuesday, and I got it from Musical Round, and they referred to it as a Partsocaster because the top is an actual Telecaster, and the body is from Mexico. Now, Steve, interestingly, told me that Stratocaster makes their bodies here and then sends them to Mexico.
Yes, depending on if it's a U.S. production or a made in Mexico production.
Right, right. And I love this deep, rich, reddish color, which kind of reminds me of the color crimson.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I would name this guitar King.
King Crimson.
King Crimson.
You know,
Yeah, so
you could actually make this a Barkercaster.
I could. It might be a Barcaster.
A Barcaster?
Yeah, Barcaster Tails. But then I got this one at this gentleman's suggestion, and it's like...
Oh yeah, turn that up.
Yeah, I'm not as good as Steve on bending notes.
But this is the ambient pedal,
This is the ambient pedal. It's
oddly
the,
enough, which is a current production pedal.
The ambient pedal.
Yeah.
Ambient. Ambient.
Oh, ambient would be better.
Ambient.
Yeah, and I've got it low on the decay, and the tone is in the middle, and the mix is in the middle, but it's on the deep side. You can switch it to lush.
But see, a very similar sound.
Yeah, it has a really nice room sound, like big chamber.
And this was back on the lush, or the deep.
A little more low end.
And then haze. It's not purple. Did I just do that one? Did I miss? Maybe I missed the middle.
That's exactly the same sound that I was exploring.
It's nice to have all those different reverbs because, you know, a lot of amps will have a reverb, and so you're stuck with just the reverb of the amp. But if you have, you know, a whole bunch of different ones that you could choose from, now you can have a different reverb for a different song.
You know, I went for a different idea than Steve did. I went for cheap.
Oh, nonsense. A tool is priced perfectly if it does what you want it to do.
So I bought this.
Sure.
It's a tremolo. JOYD is the brand.
Joyo.
Or Joyo, yeah.
Oh,
so I can
these
add
are
these
classics.
together.
I've got a couple of those, and you know, for $29.95, you can get yourself a pedal, and it works and sounds good. It's not too noisy or anything.
Oh, yeah.
It's got a great sound. But then I just got, this is my newest pedal, because I remember being at Dave Roof's, and he said, you know, I've never met a guitar player who didn't have an overdrive on his pedal board. So I thought, okay.
Yeah, get some.
Kind of a
Michael,
Rolling
that's-
Stone sound, right?
Yeah.
It's like the best sound for you because, you know, you don't need a heavy metal pedal.
I don't.
You don't need like a overdrive or a fuzz that's like smashing it. You don't need
I
a
don't.
Black Sabbath sound. You
No.
need kind of like that.
That's kind of a Rolling Stones-ish.
Rolling Stones
Yeah.
kind of Americana.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just,
like
I mean,
the Tom Petty sound.
Yeah.
Then I bought I have a compressor. It's a Behringer.
Again, functional pedal, good price.
But I have it on just right up the middle, but I've got sustain on high. But it doesn't sound that good by itself, so with a little tremolo. And I just added this because
Because you have to. You always have to have one gain pedal on your pedal board.
So, yeah, that's going to make your notes last
yeah.
and
But
ring out for a long time.
you also had an echo pedal, so I thought I would add in. It's Stritch is the brand.
And a slapback setting?
Yeah, you could even crank that up more.
Yeah, you could.
On the level or the feedback or the time?
On the time, if you do the time, it's going to
Crank it back or up?
crank it up.
I cranked the level up a little bit too, so we can hear more of your echoes.
Right.
Is that too much of a back?
Oh, I like it.
You know, it depends.
What's
Like,
that?
I like to set mine to the tempo of the song, but sometimes
Oh.
it's nice just to have a really fast slap back
Yeah.
Right.
kind of sound.
Well, and I also bought this gate.
Well, the setting that you're on right now too is you can start to do that early U2 sort of sound. Whereas you play one note and you get all the extra notes with it.
Yeah, sometimes just having one echo is nice rather than a long trail of echoes.
Strum once, get two notes.
Yeah.
And this you have to just... It just sounds so cool.
That's the setting where your jazz chords are going to make the most sense.
Okay, that's...
Because I don't like jazz.
just play the right notes.
If you have to augment that chord, why not just play the first chord?
You know, and here's one that I played on one of the songs on my record. That's a cool one. And I've been fiddling around with this idea.
Oh, yeah.
Just an A to an A major 7.
There you go.
Just a beautiful chord. So that's Mike's Gear Talk.
There we go. And definitely when you're doing the ambient stuff,
Yeah.
sometimes the less you strum will go even a longer way too.
See, that's what I'm thinking too.
Right?
I
Because
agree.
then it kind of turns into like waves or sheets of sound.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
it gets muddy if
Yeah.
you're playing it.
You play a lot
Like
more
that.
over and stuff like that.
Well, what'd you bring with you today, Andy?
All right, so we're going through my instrument collection too, and so I didn't bring my pedal board because that'd be overkill. So instead,
I don't think so.
I brought my ukulele. So this is a Makala, and it's just your standard ukulele, and you could tell I teach kids on it because it has those stickers and stuff. But so I used to do when I was living in Colorado. And my daughter was born, and she was kind of, a year old. We used to go to story time bubble hour. You blow bubbles, you read a story. There's puppets. You have like little streamers. You walk around in a circle, and we would sing Itsy Bitsy Spider, and wheels on the bus go round and round. And I even had like a little Post-it note on the side of my ukulele, so I would remember the chords. The wheels on the bus go round and round. And we would do story time, strum and drum. I used to call it bang and twang, but strum and drum. And so I would play ukulele, and it was fun. And if you want to learn guitar and you want to get a good start, hey, you can start with ukulele, because everything you learn you can just apply directly to the guitar, right? It's the same. And the spacing's better, the strings are easy to squeeze. So for kids, it's better to learn on ukulele anyway than a guitar, but I thought maybe I'd show off this one a little bit.
Awesome.
Right. And then let's see if you recognize this tune. Oh wait, I better not play it, because then I'll play an alternate version that
There we
won't
go.
get us flagged by the copyright lawyers. Start over, Andy. Oh, I'm doing bad. Try again. I finally got it.
Ah,
Take 3. Call that Stairway to Walmart.
There we go.
Ah,
Yeah,
right,
Jimmy
right,
Page would be proud of you for that one.
Stairway to Kevin?
Hairway.
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 Airway. This has been a lot of fun today. I mean, I learned so much about pedals and the function of pedals and how pedals sound and pedals and more pedals. And thank you, Steve.
Oh, yeah. Oh, actually, if we have time for a brief question, now that Andy's here and stuff like this, I have a chord question.
I'm ready.
There we go. If you could pass me your guitar. Because I need to illustrate it first, and then I have to find out What is this?
What is this chord?
We're gonna play
Name
the game
mystery
of
chord.
what is this? Got the distortion on?
Play along at home, everyone.
Distortion is very important with this song. So, all right.
That was a E and a G and an A.
Right, which is the important parts, because I'm pretty much a grip it and rip it kind of guy, so I'm not going to deal with the subtle bits of hitting the chords right. But it's the fourth chord that works that I can't figure out why.
Okay.
And it's basically, I have everything up, yeah, baby. I say it's an A, but what exactly is going on there?
When you hit the open strings, when you hit string 2 and string 3 and string 4, officially that's a G chord.
Okay.
Which you had hinted at by pressing the 3rd fret, right? So the open strings are part of that G chord, so you're basically just going back to G.
Excellent. That's been driving me crazy for 10 years.
So you played E, G, A, and then now this is almost like a G chord, even though you're not playing that 3rd fret note in the bass. It's part of that chord.
Because I was trying to leave it kind of ambiguous as far as what's going on and stuff like that. That particular song only has 2 parts, E, G, and A, and then C, D, and E. But that 4th chord for the longest time was like, I like it, it does something for the song, but I never knew what it was. And now we know.
Now we know.
So there we go. That's how
And
it's
knowing's half the battle.
And that is the chord of the day.
Open strings can be your friend.
Andy, chord talk.
This has been Studio G chord in the listening room.
I thought it was Studio C.
Studio C chord in the listening room.
Yeah. And I'm Mike Snyder-Barker, Barks Tales, and really grateful that Steve came and joined us
Happy to be here.
on our 9th episode.
Wow, and we've got
the one that sank the series. Thank you, folks.
And we've got a lot of great local musicians coming up soon in the southeastern Michigan music scene, and we're glad to have Steve today. But check out our other podcasts and check out all the different music that's happening in Michigan right now. We've got kind of a lively music scene happening.
Oh, man.
And we're going to introduce you to all the musicians one at a time.
Each and every one of them. That means on our 15,000th episode,
We start to repeat.
We'll go back to the top and start over.
Oh, that's great.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. See you next time.